Welcome everyone to this week's edition of the GSM's Pride Spotlight. I have a returning guest and there's a specific reason for it. So, welcome back, Heidi.
Thank you.
So if you remember last time we spoke to Heidi, we got kind of into the whole Disney thing. You know, Heidi worked there, she loves going. Well, Heidi went on a trip and took her baby boy with her.
Did.
So I wanted to revisit and see how the experience was when you had a little toddler with. Well, he's not even a toddler. Is he a toddler yet?
He's considered toddler, yeah. Mm-hmm. After one, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But so when did you go? What? And let's talk about what happened. So when did you go?
We went in the middle of May, the 14th through the 22nd, and it was, I don't know about record high temperatures, but it was hotter than normal in Orlando that week, that specific week. I kept watching the weather leading up to it and then how it was supposed to be, and it's like mid-90s, and I was like, please go down. It didn't go down.
So was that a reason why it was miserable, or did something happen at Disney that kind of made it not the experience that you're used to?
It was a big combination of things. So leading up to the trip, like I counted, I went to Disney 8 times since 2007.
That's insane.
6 times since 2016. So, but never with a kid.
Yeah.
It was always an adults only trip. I went by myself, I went with my husband, I went with friends. So going with a kid was planning to go with a kid. A small kid, like a toddler, was a new planning experience for me, like didn't know what to expect. So I tried not to have high expectations for it because I didn't know what to expect. So, you know, just there was a lot of things that went wrong. Like the first day was fine. I ended up, it was Wednesday, it was halfway through our trip, coming home from the Magic Kingdom with a sore throat and starting to feel sick and starting to not feel good. And I was like, oh. And then with it being so hot every day, like we only lasted a few hours in the parks the days that we did go. And when I go to Disney, I'm go, get there when they open, leave when they close, like go back to the resort in the middle of the day for a little bit to rest. But, and my husband isn't quite the same as far as that goes.
Is that based on his enthusiasm for going so many times?
You know, he's okay when we're there. He just doesn't like getting there. Like he's not a fan of the traveling part of it. He's like, but once he's there, he's okay. And he's not like a planner like I am. So, so I got sick. My 15-month-old. So he woke up, I think Tuesday, with about 15 or 20 bites.
Oh, really?
All over his face, his arms, his feet. So I was like, is this bed bugs? Is this hand, foot, mouth? What is it?
Mosquitoes, whatever.
Mosquitoes? What in the world? And so we had them switch out his bedding and came back, and apparently there's a bug in Florida. My pediatrician, we took him to the pediatrician. We're like, what is this? Because we just want to know what it was. She's like, you know, I see kids come home from Florida with bites like this.
Really?
Doesn't follow the pattern of bed bugs. It's not that. She couldn't remember the name of the bug, but I was like, thank God it's not bed bugs. So there's a bug native to Florida. Exactly. There's a bug in Florida, and apparently kids come back from Florida with these
like that
bites.
fresh blood.
Something, yeah. So that was another thing that happened. So, like, we scheduled 6 park days. We only did 3. We came home a day early. I called Southwest to change our flights to come home early. So, it was just a series of unfortunate events.
Well, this is why I want to talk about this, because you have been so passionate and you've talked so highly of Disney. I was curious to see if there was anything that Disney specifically did, or it was just something that the perfect storm where everything just didn't go right.
That's exactly what it was. Like, you know, I say I didn't have any expectations, but going so much before, it's, you know.
How did Disney respond to the changing the petted and stuff like that? Were they pretty
Not
responsive?
the way that I would have expected.
Really?
Yeah, I called and I said my son woke up with about 15 to 20 bites all over him. I don't know if it's bed bugs, like I specifically said bed bugs, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And they, sent someone out to change everything right away, but there was really not much of a response beyond that.
And that's not
changed
usual
it
for
and
Disney, right? Disney usually they make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, because I'm part of these Disney groups with, taking your toddlers to Disney and things like that. And they're like, oh, we mentioned bed bugs and, this, and this happened. And
Yeah.
So.
How's Andrew with all the people? Like the Disney characters and stuff?
With the characters, he was okay. So we did 2 days in the Magic Kingdom and 1 day at Epcot. And we did 2 character breakfasts. And I think that with little kids like that, that's really the way to go, is like to do character meals.
Yeah, sit down with
Because
them.
you sit down, you're eating, they're like preoccupied with that, and then the characters can come up and interact with you and things like that. And so I think that was the best thing.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I think when they interact in the park, it can be a little like, oh, I don't want you near me, go away kind of situation.
Yeah.
And we took Oliver when he was, Ashley's going to be mad, but I think 2 maybe. He was pretty young, and maybe 3. And he was the same. He would kind of be like, I don't know if I want to. But if we lined up to see him, and he got time to watch other kids go up there and realize.
Yeah.
But when they were coming around on the park, it was like, whoa, I don't want you near me.
Right.
Kind of situation. So yeah, it was different, because I remember there was one specific. There was Chip and Dale, and they were kind of walking through the park, and people were stopping them.
Okay.
And we did kind of get in a line, but the line was only like 2 or 3 people at that point. And he was a little, he went and did it, but he was a little iffy about, he was like, should I go there or not?
Right,
This is kind of weird.
Right.
But then there was another part where I think we saw Rafiki in the Animal Kingdom Park, and we lined up for a while, and he enjoyed that one. But like I said, I was curious to see how that all went down. If you went again, and I'm sure you're going to, what would you change?
We're going to go when he's a little bit older, maybe when he can climb in and out of the stroller himself might be helpful. I think another place where we went wrong is he's just starting to walk. And he was confined to the stroller
Didn't like
the
it.
whole time. He didn't. It was just like, okay, I'm just sitting in here. The sunshade is pulled down. I can't see anything. It's hot. He kept moving the fan. I don't know if he didn't like the fan blowing right on him or what, but we had a stroller fan. He kept moving it. So I will take him when he's a little older. We won't do as many park days, because my thought was, okay, we'll get park reservations for every day we're there, but we'll only go for a couple hours instead of being stuck in the room the whole time. And we'll take tons of naps, which we started on that trend. But I think with a young kid, I think every other day is a better schedule for going to the parks, and doing more things like character meals on your days off and going to Disney Springs and stuff like that. So, but I think when he can move around a little bit more. Like, I thought about wanting to take him, because his birthday's in January, and I love Disney during Christmas. So maybe like the December before he turns 3 while he's still free, going back then. But Disney reimbursed us, luckily, for our 3 days that we didn't use.
Oh, they did?
And they said we can come back anytime, and if we come back after he's 3, they'll still let him go in for free.
Oh, really? That's good.
And it's good. So.
Yeah, when we went, obviously, I've got Aria, she's 4, she's obsessed with princesses, wants to go bad, but we're the same. So Oliver, when he went, until I showed him pictures, or actually showed him pictures, he had no recollection that he went to Disney.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, the reason we went to Disney was really because of me.
Sure.
Because I read the books, and I was like, I want to go see if this is real. So I went, and I just happened to have a kid now, and I was like, well, I can use Oliver as an excuse to go.
Yeah.
So that was what we did.
Kind of like what I did.
So we used it as an excuse. I wish we'd have waited for longer, and that's what we're doing with Ori, is we're going to wait until, I think it should be okay now. We'll probably do it next year maybe, unless we go back to the UK, but try and do it when she can remember it, because I think that was a bigger thing. But I remember when we were doing it, it was, and we went in the summer too, and it was hot. And I remember it was tough with a little kid.
Yeah.
It was a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, Disney got it down everywhere he goes. I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. Well, no,
Exactly.
Yeah, sure you do. I'm
Yeah.
sure you do. You know what was funny? I don't know if you ever know this, but when I was down there with Oliver, we kind of had a similar scenario where we felt like everything was going wrong because the kid got pulled in by the alligator that year.
Okay, yeah.
And they had that shooting in that nightclub. Remember that one? All in 2 days of us getting there.
Okay.
And we were
my
like,
gosh.
should we have come here? 'Cause this is
Wow.
like bad.
Yeah.
Like literally the night we got there, we slept, got up the next day, and that was the first night the shooting was in that nightclub.
Okay, yeah.
And then literally 2 nights later, the kid got pulled into the lake. And we're like, oh, this is not fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was
Right.
a little bit of a downer.
Yeah. I mean, I picked May because we went for our honeymoon the first week of May in 2016. The weather was perfect. The crowds were perfect. Like, you know, so I was like, okay, well, May would be good. And I couldn't find anything the first 2 weeks of May, so we ended up going the third week, which the crowds were fine. The crowds weren't bad. Kids were still in school. It was just unseasonably hot, so.
Yeah, that happens. Well, you gave me my answer.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't Disney screwing up.
It wasn't. No, it was my expectations or lack thereof, and you know.
And like you said,
the
perfect
age,
storm.
I
You got
think.
sick. He got those bites.
Yeah.
You wasn't expecting it with a 15-month-old.
Yeah,
There
the
was just so
weather
many
and
different-
everything,
The
yeah.
weather, all that kind of stuff. And there was nothing worse than getting sick in a hot climate like that. It just makes it worse.
Exactly.
And by the way, she didn't have COVID.
I didn't have COVID, no. Viral infection, because, you know, it wasn't COVID. So.
That could be another conversation for another time about the non-binary infections these days.
Exactly,
We'll
yeah.
talk about that another time. But thanks for joining me this week. As always, over at Fusz Ford, we can replace the car, not the customer, and I'll see you all next week.